Welcome back, folks. It's Franny from Allosaurus Investments. And I get asked a lot of questions about Neoform, which you might expect considering how titular it is to the channel. Makes sense, right? What kinds of questions do I get? Well, if you've been asking them, you probably already know. But for those unfamiliar, how do you win with the deck? Because the deck's not that good. So how do you win with it? What's your plan? Why are you playing these cards in the sideboard? What's your sideboard plan? That's got to be the most common question. And I want to make a comprehensive rundown of this deck. It's really important to me. I want to explain my knowledge, be generous, share it with the world. I think I have a lot of value I could add. So Neoform, what kind of deck is it? It's an aggro deck. Aggro deck? I can hear you saying it. What are you talking about? Aggro? I thought it was combo. Wrong. I can't even articulate to you right now, just yet, how wrong you are if you thought that. It's obviously a green-blue aggro deck. The design of the deck is to win with Allosaurus Rider beatdown. Some other creatures too, sometimes endurance. Whether you cast it for 3 or scan it, okay? Sometimes it's Galta beatdown. That's a 1-turn clock if you get the Galta and the Xenagos. You have the Galta on its own, 2-turn clock. But I could discuss this quick math review session with you folks. Now, Allosaurus Rider, you may notice it costs no mana. Well, it costs 7 mana. Not sure how many times I've cast it for 7 mana. Not very many, but probably not 0. The way you're supposed to cast Allosaurus Rider, if you weren't aware, is by pitching 2 green cards. Okay, so one thing you'll notice just from this clause, Allosaurus Rider is kind of what the deck is built around. So you really want green cards in your deck. The less green cards you have in your hand, the harder it's going to be to get your beatdown going. And I've already said beatdown a lot. Like, really? Beatdown? Oh yeah. That's plan A. And I know what you might be thinking right now. In which matchup is a plan A to beat down with Allosaurus Rider? Is it energy? Well, no, it's not really energy. They have removal. Is it just Jeskai Blink? No, it's also not really just Jeskai Blink. They have a lot of removal. Is it affinity? The problem with the affinity matchup that plan doesn't really work. Is it the Eldrazi decks? No, not really. They can exile your Allosaurus Rider with their creatures, and you kind of need to win with the comp in that matchup. What about Goryo? No, they have removal. So you might be asking yourself now, okay, so which matchups is it your plan to be down with Allosaurus Rider? You can do it against Storm. You can do it against Amulet. A lot of times you want to play the Rider ahead of the Vexing Bauble. That's like a pro tip. You know, if you're like, they have Vexing Bauble in their deck. Okay, I'll play my Allosaurus Rider first. Because they don't play that many removal spells. Okay, so you can get it under their Vexing Bauble, and then they can't remove it. Sometimes they can, but you take your chances where you get it. Right? So these matchups, I would say it's plan A to attack with Allosaurus Rider. The rest of the matchups, not so much. Okay. So, how is Allosaurus Rider an aggro card? How is this an aggro deck? How are we winning? The thing is, you always have the option to beat down. Okay. When I say it's plan A, it's plan A of threatening. Plan B of threatening is, of course, to neoform your Allosaurus Rider into a different creature. Usually Grizzlebrand. Some 80% of the time you want to get Grizzlebrand, put it into play. Maybe 75%. I haven't done the exact numbers. Stockfish could tell me the percent. I can't tell you the percent to the left. But around 80%. Okay. What does Grizzlebrand do? Well, it's an 8/8. Or a 7/7 if you Eldritch Evolution it. And then you draw a bunch of cards. Okay. Doesn't this sound pretty aggressive? Attacking for 7 or for 8? I mean, for every turn, right? Your card investment for getting this back, this gigantic creature, is pretty low. Like, sure, you have to lose the Allosaurus Rider plus the 2 cards, plus the Neoform card. That's 4 cards. But Grizzlebrand immediately draws you 7. So, you're kind of up on cards. And it doesn't cost that much mana to produce such a gigantic creature. And what are you doing with that creature? Attacking. Or drawing cards. Or maybe draw cards, maybe you didn't have to consign your pack trigger. You draw more cards, put Galta into play, Galta puts Xenagos into play, attack for 24, or for 26. These all sound like very aggressive things to me. Okay. And I know what you might be saying, which is, sure, you literally win the game by finally attacking. That doesn't make it an aggro deck. In game 1, you're right. It's not the very best aggro deck. There kind of is no aggro deck in the old school sense in Modern right now. Maybe the prowess deck. But even then, all the aggro decks have this grind power. Would you call Energy an aggro deck? Probably not. Would you call the Jeskai Blink deck an aggro deck? Not really, right? It's kind of more of a aggressive, controlling, maybe even a mid-range deck, if you will. And Neoform is aggro, just like those decks are. But instead of leaning into mid-range, it leans into combo. You always have the option to beat down with Allosaurus. How often do you take it? Really, it depends on the matchup. Because there's not very many matchups where you do it. But when you do it, it's a powerful option to have on the table. One such example would be Mill matchup. Now, it might not be the most common matchup, but it is actually your plan A in the Mill matchup, yes. I like to board out Grizzlebrand in the Mill matchup. Why? Because you're never comboing them. It doesn't work. They mill your deck, they counter, it doesn't work. But they don't have a lot of removal. So, more green cards in your hand to pitch Allosaurus, better of an aggro deck you are. I thought of the deck as such an aggro deck for so long that I even tried to play cards like the 3/3 for 2, the Watchwolf. I don't even remember the name anymore. That card was a banger when my plan was to attack. And I know what you're saying, which is, that card's not in your deck, so why are you talking about it? Okay, that's a fair point. Now that we've understood that Neoform is an S tier, impossible to interact with, aggro A, combo B, strategy. Now you need to know, how do you sideboard with Neoform? Okay. In some sense, this question is easy to answer. But in another sense, it's not easy to answer. So if you think about it, really, it's just not easy to answer. The sideboard ins are mostly pretty obvious. Energy deck, you want your Nature's Claims, because they play Blood Moon, sometimes High Noon, sometimes Vexing Bubble. So what do you take out versus Energy? Pact of Negation, Veil of Summer. There's kind of not that much. Jeskai Blink, what do you do? Okay, so the approach for Jeskai Blink is kind of the same approach for Goryo's, kind of the same for Belcher. The blue interaction decks, you would do this versus like blue-white control too, blue-black Frog. As for Blink, you want to leave in the core Neoform cards, but you want to take out the packs. Both of them, the blue and the green. They're pretty core to the deck, but you kind of want to combo later. You want to combo later versus these decks, because it's a lot of investment to combo. These decks play counterspells, Force Negation, Mystical Dispute, Strict Serenade, Spell Snare, etc. So you don't want to go all in too early. That's not your plan. Your plan is to put pressure on them to make way for your combo. So this is kind of like mid-range combo. It's not really aggro, because Ice Fang Waddle only attacks for 1. And I know what you're thinking. Ice Fang Waddle? Either you had no idea it was in the deck, or if you're studious, you were just confused as to why. Or maybe you mastered the Blade, and that's not new information for you, that the card is extremely powerful. But in case you're unaware, it might seem confusing. Attacks for 1. Okay, well that's weird. It is green, and it cycles. Strong start. So it's kind of like a Planner Genesis, but instead of choosing the card, you get a 1/1. So how is this relevant? What the hell does that do? The answer is, it turns your extra Neoforms in hand into threats. Normally with a combo deck, a deck like, say, Show and Tell. Let's say you have an Atrax in hand in your Show and Tell deck. Okay. The more Show and Tells in hand, the better, because you can just spam them every turn. Every turn you force them to answer your Show and Tell. Because the first one to resolve wins you the game, right? You put Atrax into play. GG's. Neoform can't really do that. Because Allosaurus Rider costs so many cards in hand to use. So if you have these extra Neoforms lying around, the best they can do is pitch to your Allosaurus Rider. Except with a revolutionary sideboard strategy of 4 or 3 Ice Fang Quaddle and 1 Abhorrent Oculus, the eyeball. You can turn your deck into a 2-part plan combo. What do I mean by 2-part plan? Because I don't mean A plus B. I mean A plus B plus C. And the C in this scenario is the Ice Fang Quaddle. Because you can turn your extra Neoforms in hand into threatening to get Abhorrent Oculus. But a lot of people object. Well, how is that good? I'm trying to combo people. I'm not trying to Abhorrent Oculus people. The answer is you make way for your Allosaurus Rider with the Abhorrent Oculus. Abhorrent Oculus drains resources from the opponent. Sometimes Solitude can actually be a problem, all right? It sounds like, oh, that's stupid. You just win the game. Then you blue pact. And their Solitude doesn't matter. Get wrecked. But it's not so simple. First of all, you might want to board out blue pact. Second of all, you don't always have it. And third, there's the problem of all of your creatures getting exiled. This especially comes up versus Gorios, or especially Jeskai Blink, actually. If they can Fable, copy their Solitude. In the minigame, that will come up. Sometimes they will run you out of threats in your deck. Look at all of your cards if none of them can win the game. So if they use their Solitude on your Oculus, Solitude's gone. Gives you time, right? They've spent their resources and their time dealing with your Oculus. Maybe you even got a morph out of it. What's it called? Manifest? Maybe you even got a manifest out of it. Maybe, just maybe, their hand couldn't answer the Oculus, nor could it provide pressure. It only had counter spells. And you've put yourself in this masterful position where you can answer their counter spells and have an Oculus left over. Maybe it was a card like High Noon. Imagine how embarrassing High Noon would feel if your hand had Galvanic Discharge, counter spells, but you could pay for the counter spell. Or maybe I had Eldritch Evolution and you had Mystical Dispute. Scenario like this. If you can sneak an Oculus into play for this, and your hand is reactive, doesn't apply pressure to me, the Oculus can actually take over the game. And maybe it leaves behind a 2-2, which is pretty relevant to block either Felia or Ragman. And once they've spent their time, their resources answering this, you've cleared the way for your dinosaur. You know, think of like a Jurassic Park scene where like some scientist, you know, he clears a plot of land in the dinosaur. You know, maybe don't think about that. Maybe just think about the game of Magic. Once you're ready to put your Allosaurus into play in the Neo format, if they have no more resources, how can they play? What could they do? All of their creatures are worse than your Grizzlebrand, and it just drew 7. I don't think they can do much of anything. Sometimes you can get your Reniverse in them. They can really only win that game with weird Quantum Riddler loops. Rennie's pretty good versus them. But what about the non-blue decks? How do you win the game? Mostly you just want to board a Nature's Claim. Okay. Mostly versus the non-blue decks, pretty much almost always board a Nature's Claim. Because most of the non-blue decks have hate pieces you want to answer. Because they don't have blue permission. You need to play hate pieces. It's pretty simple. Usually you board a Veil of Summer, sometimes Blue Pact. But it's really just nature claiming their stuff. And then Neoforming. Sometimes if things go south, you know, you can do the old Allosaurus Rider beatdown. Maybe you get an Endurance into play. Maybe you scam Endurance. Scam Endurance? What are you talking about? Consigned scam, of course, if you weren't aware. Maybe you Hooting Mandrills them. I don't really think you can turn 2 Hooting Mandrills. You can turn 3. And that's a 5-turn clock, okay? And if they take damage off their lands, might be a 4-turn clock. If you combine that with other Dinosaur or Endurance, we'd be talking some serious numbers here. But usually you don't have to do that, you can just combo that. So, basically the deck is composed of Neoform and Neoform related cards. The non-Neoform related cards are protection pieces, so Blue Pact, Veil of Summer, Middle Summer's good. I usually play 3, usually don't play 4. The reason why I don't play 4 is because not that many decks have that many counterspells. Middle Summer doesn't really do anything on its own proactively. It's hard to have too many of that card in your deck when you're boarding into 4 Dispute. If I had 3 Dispute, I'd probably play 4 Middle Summer. You also have Nourishing Shoal. The point of Nourishing Shoal is it's kind of a synergy piece with Grizzle Brand. Sometimes it catches your opponent's off guard. But mostly it's just, if your Grizzle Brand might miss, it's like extra copies of Consign that are green because if you pitch a 7-drop, you gain 7 more life, draw some more cards. Math is more complicated than that, but that's a card I get questioned about a lot. Repudiate's another one. Why are you playing Repudiate? Basically, it's a green Consign. Okay, it's worse than Consign, but it's green. You really want your cards to be green. Okay? You want to love the environment with this deck. AKA, have green cards. Because they're good with your Allosaurus Rider. There's not really that much else to the deck. A lot of people wonder about specifics of the mana base. You know, I play 2 Island. A lot of people don't really play 2 Island. People play 1 Island, 1 Forest. The problem with that is you can kind of run out of fetchables. So people play 4 Hedge Maze. You could go for it. I never really found the need. I never found myself missing the 4th Hedge Maze. You kind of lose the game by then. If you can't take that long most of the time. Really, I think I've shared all my wisdom, honestly. I think this was a great, informative crash course on Neoform. I really think I've done my duty to the public, explained everything well. And if you needed to verify my credentials, I mean, how can you argue with that? I hope this video has found you all well. Happy Neoforming.